Chapter 14. Things You Keep Secret. It was a while before I realized that the kid who punched Sal went to our school. We were working on our projects for Main Street, which is a scale model of a city block that we're constructing in the back of our classroom. Mr. Tompkins' class studies buildings every year. Mom says he's a frustrated architect. Why is he frustrated? I asked. It's complicated. She said it had to do with the war. Teachers didn't have to go fight in Vietnam, so a lot of young men who didn't want to fight became teachers. Instead of what they really wanted to be, she meant. Jay Stringer, who is a 12-year-old genius and the head of the Main Street Planning Board, had already built an entire cardboard building, complete with fire escapes and a water tower, and he just started 2 phone booths that he said would have tiny doors that folded open and closed. Anne-Marie was busy with her pebbles and her extra-strength glue, working on a stone wall for the park that Jay Stringer had approved the week before. Julia was making a tinfoil UFO that she said would fly up and down the street on an invisible wire. The UFO hadn't been approved yet, but Julia was going ahead with it anyway. She had written, "Proposal pending," on a piece of paper and taped it to the end of the shoe box full of foil and fishing line. Alice Evans was trying to make fire hydrants out of clay, which so far just looked like pathetic lumps. Having to pee so badly all the time must have made it hard for her to concentrate. I worked on the diagrams for my playground proposal. My slide looked too steep, and then too flat, and then too messy because I had erased so much. I would have to ask for another sheet of graph paper, which always made Jay Stringer sigh and roll his eyes because he brought it from home. The classroom phone rang, and after he answered it, Mr. Tompkins asked if anyone wanted to go be an office monitor for a while. I raised my hand. The school secretary usually gives office monitors a few Bit-O-Honeys or Hershey Kisses. I grabbed my book and rode the banisters down to the first floor, where I found Wheelie at her desk in the main office. She's called the secretary, but as far as I can tell, she basically runs the school. And she tries to do it without getting out of her desk chair, which has wheels, which is why everyone calls her Wheelie. She rolls herself around the office all day by pushing off the floor with her feet. It's like pinball in slow motion. "The dentist needs a runner," she said to me, kicking herself over to a desk where she picked up a sheet of paper. It's weird to go to a school for almost 7 years and then one day discover there's a dentist office inside it, but that is exactly what happened. Wheelie stood up, and I followed her out of the office and around the corner to a short, dead-end hallway I had never thought about before. There was one open door, and on the other side of it was a real dentist's office. We walked into a waiting area, and I could see into another room with a regular dentist chair. It had a little white sink attached, and one of those big silver lights over it. The walls were covered with posters about eating apples and plaque and brushing your teeth. Wheelie called out, "Bruce?" And a guy with a short gray beard popped his head into the waiting room. He was wearing one of those green doctor tops, and he gave me a big, perfect smile.
"Hey there, are you my first appointment?"
"No, this is Miranda," Wheelie said. "She's your runner. I have the patient list right here." And she handed me the piece of paper. I saw a bunch of names and classroom numbers. "They go to the dentist at school?" I said. "That's so weird." Wheelie snatched the paper back and said, "There are 98 sixth graders in this school. 89 of them are in attendance today. So if you can't do this politely, you can go straight back to your classroom and I'll find another one for the job." I felt my face go hot, and I actually thought I might cry. Sometimes when I'm caught off guard, I cry at almost nothing. The dentist put a hand on my shoulder and smiled again. He was like a professional smiler, which makes sense for a dentist, I guess.
"My services don't cost anything, Miranda. Some families don't have the money to pay a dentist, or they could really use the money for something else."
Oh, I was thinking I shouldn't let my mother find out about this. She's always complaining about how healthcare should be free for everyone. I bet she'd have me signed up for the dentist at school in no time. The dentist looked at Wheelie, and she forced a little smile and handed me the list again. Then she fished a warm bit of honey out of her pocket and gave it to me right there in front of the dentist, even though Louisa had once told me that you might as well whack your own teeth with a wrench as eat a bit of honey. I set out with my list.
"Don't get the kids all at once," the dentist called after me. "Bring them in twos."
I decided to get the little kids first. I knocked on their classroom doors, and their teachers came hurrying to see my note. The kids were just handed over to me. I walked the 2 kindergartners to the dentist's office, read my book in the waiting room for a while, and then went back for a 2nd grader and a 4th grader. It was a lot of climbing up and down stairs. Not in a million years could I imagine Wheelie doing this.